Thank you, Richard. Well, as we all know, November 11th officially marks the end of World War I. 75 years later, the memories of that war and the Second World War are, to some, as vivid today as they were during that terrible period in our history. In part one of a special four-part series on Canadians who served and died in both conflicts, Bill Jessome's Memories of War this evening touches on a lighter side to war.
It's been nearly half a century since the end of the Second World War, and those who served in that conflict are becoming, like their First World War brethren, fewer and fewer. Retired General Joe Romano was a young RCAF pilot who flew out of Shearwater in the early days of the war. One of Joe's happier memories of that time was not a deadly dogfight with a Luftwaffe pilot, but a flight to the Far East, fly Dakotas from Cornwall, England to Burma, a flight that did have dangerous possibilities.
Shortly after takeoff, we were in the cloud, and we got down as low as we could. We were still in the fog, and then we climbed up to about 15,000, which was the limit of the DAC without oxygen. We were still in it, so we just flew on met wind. Now, met wind was not that accurate, it would have appeared, because we flew on for a distance of about 1,200 miles before we broke out of the clag, and by this time, of course, the sun was out, and it was a number of hours later, and the navigator took a sunshot and said we're quite a bit farther out to sea. We've drifted much farther than we should, and we'll may or may not make our destination Gibraltar. It turned out that when I did a fuel check, we didn't have very much. So I said, what's the closest air base? And he checked and found out that it was Rabat in French Morocco, where we made it to, with the spare fuel tanks in the cabin, we made it there with about 20 minutes of fuel left. Now, by this time, of course, I was out of the stream of aircraft which had servicing set up across North Africa and Arabia and all the way to Karachi in India. Well, a trip that was scheduled to have taken 8 days took us 27 days. That was a very, very memorable for me occasion, a time, part of the war that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Not all memories of war are pleasant, of course. Some are painful to remember.
And that, when the Padre comes in at night to pick up the personal effects of the fellow who never made it back, that's when it really gets to you. You don't have time while you're out there thinking about these things, but even if you see the aircraft going down, but then it's at night in the tent, the fellow slept next to you for days in the next bed, then you've got to get to reflect on it.
When the war ended, 250,000 men and 17,000 women had served in the RCAF. Of these, 17,000 made the supreme sacrifice. Memories of war, memories that should not be forgotten. Bill Jessome, ATV News.